Hello. On an early winter afternoon, a schoolgirl called her friend, and they arranged to meet at her friend's house. However, the girl never arrived at the meeting point and lost contact with everyone. Where did she go? And why is her disappearance connected to a cardboard box? Today, I will share with you one of Hong Kong's top 10 unsolved cases. This story took place in Happy Valley, located in the southern part of the Wan Chai district on Hong Kong Island. Happy Valley is one of the earliest developed areas in Hong Kong, named after the Happy Valley Racecourse. Its original name was Wong Nai Chung Valley. Due to its quiet and private environment, many celebrities chose to reside there. The central figure of this story is Yuk-ying, a 16-year-old girl who was the sixth child in a family of 8 siblings. Her family did not live in Happy Valley, but resided in Siu Sai Wan, on the eastern side of Hong Kong Island. Yuk-ying's parents operated a fish stall near their home, and her elder brother was studying at the University of Hong Kong. Yuk-ying attended secondary school at San Fat School, where her younger brother, Ping-keung, was also a student. However, due to poor academic performance, Yuk-ying later transferred to Takshing Evening English College in Causeway Bay to continue her 9th grade studies. Classes began at 7:00 p.m. and ended at 9:00 p.m. Occasionally, Yuk-ying helped her parents at the fish stall during the day. She would leave home at 6:00 p.m. to catch the tram to Causeway Bay for her classes, and she usually returned home by 10:00 p.m. As Christmas approached, the school was preparing for a celebration. After class, Yuk-ying needed to stay behind to rehearse a play with her classmates, which meant she would return home later than usual. One day, Yuk-ying left her home to attend her evening classes as usual. However, she never returned. On Monday, December 16, 1974, despite the chilly weather, Yuk-ying decided to go to her evening school in Happy Valley. She had arranged to rehearse a play with her classmates after school. At 5:00 p.m., Yuk-ying changed her clothes and left home. She departed an hour earlier than usual. At 6:00 p.m., Yuk-ying made a phone call to her close friend, Chan Binbin. Chan Binbin was a former classmate of hers at San Fat School. The two were very close, often going to the movies and shopping together. Although Yuk-ying had transferred to another school, she stayed in touch with her old friends. This time, Yuk-ying called Chan Binbin to ask her to return a pop music cassette tape that she had borrowed earlier. Over the phone, they agreed to meet at the Happy Valley tram terminus in half an hour. Chan Binbin lived on Shan Kwong Road in Happy Valley, very close to the tram terminus. At 6:30 p.m., Chan Binbin brought the cassette to the tram station, but did not see Yuk-ying anywhere. She waited there for a while, but by 7:00 p.m., there was still no sign of her friend. Since Yuk-ying had a habit of breaking promises in the past, Chan Binbin thought perhaps her friend had decided not to come. She eventually returned home. That night, Yuk-ying's parents were busy working at their fish stall and only returned home late at night. They were surprised to find that their daughter had not come back yet. Thinking that she might have stayed late at school to rehearse, they called her classmates. However, they were told that Yuk-ying had not attended school that evening, nor had she participated in the rehearsal. No one knew where she was. That night quietly passed without incident. Early the next morning, at the Happy Valley tram terminus, a sanitation worker began his usual cleaning routine. The terminus, located on Wong Nai Chung Road, was surrounded by tall buildings and various shops. His job, as always, was to ensure the streets were clean before businesses opened for the day. As he approached 2123 Wong Nai Chung Road, right in front of a veterinary clinic, he noticed a large cardboard box tied with string. The box measured about 90 cm long and 60 cm wide. Finding such a large box placed outside the clinic struck him as odd. Out of curiosity, he gave it a slight push, but it did not move. Thinking it might belong to the clinic, he decided to leave it alone and continued with his work. Later, around 8 a.m., just as the clinic was preparing to open, an employee arrived and noticed the same box. Unlike the sanitation worker, the employee found it bothersome. The box was not part of the clinic's property, yet it obstructed the entrance. In an attempt to clear the way, the employee tried to push the box aside. However, it was far heavier than expected. Unable to move it alone, he called a colleague for assistance. Together, they lifted the box and carried it a short distance away, leaving it by the roadside. Roughly 2 hours later, while patrolling Wong Nai Chung Road, a police officer spotted the cardboard box partially blocking the street in front of the clinic. Curious, he began asking around. Yet, despite his inquiries, no one came forward to claim it. Growing more suspicious, he retrieved a pair of scissors and cut through the string securing the box. What he found inside was far beyond what he had anticipated. The naked body of a young woman wrapped tightly in newspaper. Shocked by the discovery, the officer immediately radioed the command center to report the situation. By that time, the streets were bustling with commuters during the morning rush hour. As word spread, curious onlookers began gathering around the scene. Soon after, additional police units arrived. They swiftly cordoned off the area, restricting access while investigators began their forensic examination. A seemingly ordinary morning had just transformed into the beginning of one of Hong Kong's most infamous murder investigations. Inside the box lay the body of a young woman. She was completely naked, her arms curled tightly around her body. Apart from a few old newspapers, there were no clothes or personal belongings found in the box. Forensic examiners discovered small fragments of copper on the victim's body, a piece of red adhesive tape in her hair, and specks of paint on her elbow. Additionally, a small piece of white paper with 2 Chinese characters was stuck to her arm. This suggested that the victim might have been in an electrical repair workshop before her death. The police also found fibers under the victim's fingernails, which were likely transferred from the suspect's clothing during a struggle. The box containing the young woman's body measured 90 centimeters in length, 60 centimeters in width and height. It was a Hitachi television box. Although fingerprints were found on the surface of the box, none matched the suspect, and all identified individuals were ruled out. An autopsy revealed bruises across the victim's body, suggesting she had been tortured before her death. However, there were no signs of sexual assault. Both of her nipples had been cut off post-mortem, and her pubic hair was burned with a hot object. Based on the contents of her stomach, the forensic team determined that the victim had eaten within 3 hours prior to her death. The examination also indicated that she had been placed in the box 1 to 2 hours after dying. The cause of death was manual strangulation with the perpetrator's right hand, leading to asphyxiation. Her time of death was estimated to be between 6 p.m. on December 16th and the early hours of the following morning. Police reviewed recent missing persons reports, but none matched the victim. Consequently, they released photos and information about the case to the media, hoping the public could provide leads. At the same time, Yuk-ying's family was frantically searching for her. By chance, they came across news of the girl in the cardboard box case in the newspaper. When they saw the victim's portrait, they immediately noticed the resemblance to Yuk-ying. Sensing that something terrible had happened, they went to the police station 2 days after her disappearance to identify the body. The identity of the girl in the cardboard box was quickly confirmed. She was 16-year-old schoolgirl Yuk-ying. Once the victim's identity was established, the Hong Kong police immediately formed a special investigation team, led by renowned Senior Inspector James Byrne, a famous detective known for solving complex cases. The investigators began retracing Yuk-ying's steps leading up to her death. Their first line of inquiry involved questioning her younger brother and close friend Chan Bin, the last 2 people known to have had contact with Pin before she disappeared. Ping-keung, Yuk-ying's younger brother, stated that on the day of the incident, after finishing his exams, he returned home earlier than usual. His sister had just finished preparing lunch, and the 2 ate together. Around 4 p.m., Yuk-ying received a phone call. Roughly 7 minutes later, another call came in, both lasting about 2 to 3 minutes. Afterward, Yuk-ying told her brother that before heading to evening school, she planned to stop by a newspaper office in North Point to place an advertisement for their older brother. That day, she intended to leave home at 5 p.m., an hour earlier than usual. However, as police investigated further, they discovered that no such advertisement request had been filed at any newspaper office in North Point. Moreover, the office had closed by 5 p.m. that evening. Around the same time, Yuk-ying was just leaving home. Meanwhile, Chan Bin informed police that she had known Yuk-ying for 4 years since their time at Sanfat School. Although they attended different schools, they remained close and kept in regular contact. 6 months prior to the incident, while shopping together, Yuk-ying purchased a pop music cassette tape, which Chan later borrowed. On the afternoon of the incident, Yuk-ying called Chan, asking her to return the tape. They arranged to meet at the Happy Valley tram terminus. Chan Bin arrived at the agreed time. However, even after waiting until 7 p.m., Yuk-ying never appeared, so Chan eventually left. Chan further revealed that Yuk-ying often arrived late or canceled plans at the last minute. In the past, they frequently arranged to meet at the Happy Valley tram terminus, and on 4 or 5 occasions, Pin had failed to show up. This time, Chan assumed it was simply another broken promise and thought little of it. One detail stood out. Recalling their phone conversation, Chan Bin noted that the background noise during the call was unusually loud. Yuk-ying's voice sounded hurried and anxious, as if she was in a rush or distressed. Concerned by her friend's tone, Chan grabbed the cassette and went directly to the tram station. Little did she know that something terrible had already happened to Yuk-ying. Following this lead, police visited Takshing Evening English College in Happy Valley, where Yuk-ying was enrolled. Investigators requested to see the attendance records for the night of her disappearance. However, the teacher informed them that the attendance log had mysteriously gone missing. The teacher recalled that when Pin's family came to inquire about her the following day, he had checked the register and noticed she had not attended class that evening. He had placed the logbook aside, but strangely, when he tried to retrieve it later, it was nowhere to be found. Police continued gathering information from Yuk-ying's classmates. They described her as an outgoing and cheerful girl who loved acting and theater. Although she was popular and well-liked, she had no boyfriend, and her strict parents kept a close eye on her activities. Despite her friendly nature, Yuk-ying rarely interacted with boys. She had been eagerly preparing for an upcoming Christmas performance, rehearsing regularly after school with her classmates. Notably, she had never missed a rehearsal before. The day of the incident was the only time Yuk-ying failed to attend class. Her family later confirmed that everything her classmates had said was true. They acknowledged that Yuk-ying generally avoided friendships with male classmates. However, there was one boy from Taiwan who had pursued her. Pin had rejected his advances, and from that point on, the boy began spreading false rumors about her at school. The rumors suggested that Yuk-ying's family was involved with organized crime. As a result, some students believed the rumors and kept their distance from her. In response, Yuk-ying's older sister went to the school to confront the Taiwanese boy. After investigating, police began to suspect that this male student might have been involved in the murder. Consequently, they attempted to locate him for questioning. However, following Yuk-ying's death, the boy disappeared and could not be found. Few days later, the police finally located him. However, the boy provided a solid alibi, proving that he was not responsible for Yuk-ying's murder. Initially, the police were almost certain that this student was the perpetrator, and it seemed the case was on the verge of being solved. But now, with this lead extinguished, the investigation hit a dead end. Shifting their focus, investigators turned their attention to the cardboard box in which Yuk-ying's body had been found. Their investigation revealed that the box originally housed a Hitachi S67B 17-inch television. This model had been available in Hong Kong for 2 years prior to the incident. The exclusive distributor of the television was a company based in Kowloon on To Kwa Wan Road. The distributor reported that within the last 3 months, they had sold approximately 300 units of the S67B model. However, rather than selling directly to customers, the company operated through 72 second-tier dealers across Hong Kong. This complicated the investigation significantly. Tracking down the origin of the box now required tracing hundreds of customers and questioning them about the disposal of their television packaging. Despite exhaustive efforts, no one admitted to discarding the box at Wong Nai Chung Road, where Yuk-ying's body had been discovered. At this point, Senior Inspector James Bairna, the head of the investigation, decided to refocus on the box itself. He observed that the cardboard box was originally designed to hold a television, but the suspect had repurposed it to conceal a human body. Naturally, this would make the box extremely heavy. Moving it alone would have been difficult, and attempting to do so risked damaging or deforming the box. However, when discovered, the box was mostly intact. It had slight signs of being dragged along the bottom, but it was otherwise undamaged and appeared relatively new. To better understand the logistics, Inspector Berna instructed his team to reenact the scene. A female officer with a physique similar to that of Yuk-ying curled up inside an identical box in the same position as the victim. The test revealed that once a person was inside, the box became extraordinarily heavy. Lifting it alone was impossible. At least 2 people were required. Moreover, the act of moving the box caused significant deformation, making it unlikely that it could have been transported far without visible damage. This raised an urgent question. How did the perpetrator manage to transport the box to Wangnai-chung Road without damaging it? To answer this, the police examined 50 popular car models available in Hong Kong at the time. The results showed that none of the vehicle's trunks or rear seats could accommodate a 17-inch television box of that size. While a truck could have been used to transport the box, police found this scenario improbable. Happy Valley was a densely populated area, and a truck unloading such a large box would likely have drawn attention. Furthermore, there were no reports of suspicious trucks in the area on the day of the incident. Additionally, if the suspect had access to a truck, they could have disposed of the box in a more remote, secluded area, reducing the risk of detection. The fact that the box was left in plain sight in a busy district only deepened the mystery surrounding the case. After careful deliberation, Senior Inspector James Byrne suddenly had a realization. He theorized that the primary crime scene might not have been elsewhere, but rather in Happy Valley, the very place where Yuk-ying's body was discovered. This idea, coupled with the fragments of copper found on the victim, prompted investigators to begin thoroughly inspecting all electrical repair workshops in the Happy Valley area. They also questioned nearly 750 electrical workers. However, despite their efforts, they found no suspicious leads. As time passed, December was drawing to a close. 10 days after the incident, while conducting a routine field investigation, a police officer stumbled upon a crucial clue. He noticed that the upper loft of an ice cream shop was filled with technical equipment and stacks of cardboard boxes resembling a small workshop. The shop, named Onmei Ice Cream, was not only located on Wangnai-chung Road in Happy Valley, but sat directly next to the veterinary clinic where Yuk-ying's body had been found. Recalling the testimony of Yuk-ying's classmates, who mentioned that she loved ice cream, the officer felt a strong intuition that the shop could be linked to the case. He immediately reported his findings and suspicions to his superiors. 2 weeks after the discovery of Yuk-ying's body, the police obtained a search warrant and proceeded to investigate the Onmei ice cream shop. The shop was divided into 3 distinct areas. The front section served as the ice cream parlor for customers, while the back was used to repair vending machines. The upper loft, where the equipment and boxes were stored, also housed a telephone line. Upon closer inspection, officers found copper wires, red adhesive tape, paint, cardboard boxes, newspapers, and an electric welding machine on the loft's shelves. These items, in one way or another, were consistent with evidence found on Yuk-ying's body. The manager of the Onmei ice cream shop explained that the items in the loft were primarily used to repair vending machines. The cardboard boxes were purchased by the shop, and once emptied, they were flattened and periodically sold as scrap material. He insisted that while there were cardboard boxes on the shelves, they were all small, and none matched the size of a television box. The manager then provided police with the employee roster for the evening of the incident. According to the records, only one male employee had been working that night, Yeung Ping-keung. During the search, police noticed that Yeung appeared visibly anxious. His facial muscles twitched nervously from the moment they entered the shop. The officers, trained to pick up on such subtle signs, began observing him closely. Their instincts told them they were finally on the right track. The next day, police brought Yeung Ping-keung in for questioning. During the interrogation, officers resorted to harsh tactics, pouring soda up his nose, physical beatings, and other forms of coercion. Despite this, Yeung firmly denied knowing Yuk-ying and insisted he had no involvement in her murder. With no further concrete evidence at the time, the police had no choice but to release Yeung. However, the forensic team meticulously analyzed the evidence collected from the ice cream shop. The copper fragments, red adhesive tape, and paint all matched the materials found on the victim's body. Furthermore, the newspapers in the shop were identical to those used to wrap Yuk-ying's body. Crucially, the small piece of white paper with 2 Chinese characters found on the victim's elbow matched a label reading "repaired," found on the loft shelves. Following this breakthrough, police conducted a search of Ping-keung's home, seizing 2 to 3 sets of clothing. The results of forensic analysis revealed that fibers found under Yuk-ying's fingernails were an exact match to the fabric of Ping-keung's suit. Additionally, on Ping-keung's suit, forensic experts found 2 green wool fibers of unknown origin. These fibers matched the 2 green fibers discovered on Yuk-ying's body. Based on the accumulated evidence, police formulated a hypothesis regarding the sequence of events on the afternoon of the incident. After leaving her home, Yuk-ying headed to the newspaper office in North Point to place an advertisement for her brother. However, upon arrival, she discovered that the office had already closed. With time to spare before her evening class, she decided to walk around the area. As she passed along Wangnai-chung Road, she noticed Onmei Ice Cream Shop. Being fond of ice cream, she decided to stop by. That evening, Ping-keung was the only employee on duty at the shop. After buying ice cream, Yuk-ying recalled that her close friend, Chan Bin, lived nearby in Happy Valley. Wanting to return the pop cassette tape, she asked Yeung if she could use the telephone. Yeung led her to the upper loft, where the shop's phone was located. The call Yuk-ying made to Chan Bin that evening originated from Onmei Ice Cream. At that moment, no one else was in the shop. It was then that Yeung developed sinister intentions. When Yuk-ying resisted his advances and attempted to flee, Yeung grabbed her from behind and strangled her with his right hand. Using excessive force, he unintentionally killed her. Realizing the gravity of his crime, Yeung was momentarily overwhelmed. However, as the shop was still open for business, he decided to temporarily hide Yuk-ying's body on the upper loft and returned to serve customers as if nothing had happened. Once the shop closed for the night, Yeung locked the doors and returned to the loft. He undressed the body, burned Yuk-ying's pubic hair with an electric welder, and cut off her nipples. Actions meant to mislead investigators into believing the perpetrator was either sexually deviant or mentally disturbed. Next, Yeung retrieved a large Hitachi television box from the loft, placing Yuk-ying's body inside. However, the box was far too heavy to carry without leaving visible drag marks. As a result, Yeung decided to discard the box right next to the veterinary clinic beside his shop, believing that the safest place is often the most dangerous one. His strategy proved effective at first. Police did not suspect that the perpetrator could be operating directly under their noses. However, Yeung had left behind too many traces. Ultimately, those very mistakes led to his arrest. Ping-keung was 28 years old at the time of the incident. He lived in Saiwan and worked as an office clerk for a factory on Whampoa Street, Hung Hom. Both of his parents had passed away, and his financial situation was modest. In 1972, 2 years before the incident, Yeung met his wife, Chung Kam-fung. After a year of dating, the couple married and maintained a harmonious relationship. By the time of the murder, they already had a daughter, and Chung Kam-fung was pregnant with their second child, a boy. To provide additional income for his growing family, Yeung took on an evening part-time job at Onmei Ice Cream. He had been introduced to the position by a friend 4 months prior to the incident. The ice cream shop allowed staff 1 day off per week, but Yeung often worked through his rest days to earn extra wages. His daily life followed a strict routine. He would take the ferry each morning to his factory job in Kwun Tong. After finishing his shift at 5 p.m., he headed directly to the ice cream shop, usually arriving by 5:40 p.m. At that time, the daytime shift staff had yet to leave, and Yeung's evening shift officially began at 6 p.m., lasting until 10 p.m. Due to the workload, Yeung often stayed at the shop until 11 p.m. before returning home. Some evenings, Ping-keung's wife would prepare dinner for him at home. while on other nights the couple dined out together. When questioned by police, Yeung's wife stated that on the night of the incident, her husband returned home around 11 p.m. as he usually did, and showed no signs of unusual behavior. That evening, the couple stayed home and did not go out. Describing her husband, she portrayed Ping-keung as an intelligent and responsible man. Neighbors also described him as polite and gentle, someone who greeted others respectfully and maintained good relations with those around him. Following this, police returned to Onmei Ice Cream to continue their investigation. According to attendance records from the night of the incident, Ping-keung arrived at the shop at 5:40 p.m. and finished his shift at 10:30 p.m., a schedule consistent with his regular routine. The ice cream shop manager explained that entering the shop required passing through 3 layers of doors. The outermost door was a large, retractable iron gate. Behind it was a smaller door, narrow enough for just one person to pass through. Finally, a wooden door led into the shop's interior. The shop employed 16 staff members, but only 3 individuals held keys to all 3 doors, one of whom was Ping-keung. In March 1975, 3 months after the murder, Ping-keung was formally arrested on suspicion of murder. 6 months later, his trial commenced at the Hong Kong Supreme Court. The jury consisted of 5 men and 2 women. Throughout the proceedings, Ping-keung consistently maintained his innocence and pleaded not guilty. During the trial, the prosecution presented over 200 pieces of evidence. They argued that the proximity of Onmei Ice Cream to the veterinary clinic, where Yuk-ying's body was discovered, aligned perfectly with the conditions necessary for the crime and the subsequent disposal of the body. Furthermore, the fibers found under the victim's fingernails were a match to the fabric of Ping-keung's suit. Additionally, investigators discovered identical green wool fibers on Yuk-ying's body in Onmei Ice Cream's loft and at Ping-keung's residence. Beyond the fibers, forensic analysis revealed that the copper fragments, adhesive tape, paint residue, and newspaper found on Yuk-ying's body matched materials stored in the loft above the ice cream shop. These damning correlations left little doubt in the minds of the prosecution, tying Ping-keung directly to the crime. Ultimately, according to the attendance records from Onmei Ice Cream, Ping-keung was the only employee on duty at the shop on the night of the incident. He possessed the keys to all 3 layers of doors, giving him the access and opportunity necessary to commit the crime. To reconstruct the crime, police used mannequins to simulate how the perpetrator could have placed the body into the cardboard box and dragged it to the disposal site. Additionally, investigators reenacted the method by which the suspect may have strangled Yuk-ying from behind. The prosecution called 15 witnesses to testify in court. Among them was a 19-year-old female witness who worked at a factory in Kwun Tong. She testified that on 2 occasions, while commuting to work, Ping-keung had pressed a lit cigarette butt against her skirt. Psychological experts described this behavior as indicative of sexual deviance. The prosecution emphasized this point, suggesting that the act of burning Yuk-ying's pubic hair mirrored this same pattern of deviant behavior. Throughout the trial, Ping-keung steadfastly maintained his innocence. His defense attorney argued that Yeung had a stable job, a loving relationship with his wife, and no known connection to Yuk-ying. They contended that he lacked any clear motive for murder. Furthermore, of the 269 fibers found on Yuk-ying's body, only 7 fibers matched Yeung's suit. The defense highlighted this discrepancy, suggesting that such a minimal match could have resulted from incidental contact rather than proving his guilt. Initially, forensic reports estimated Yuk-ying's time of death between 9 p.m. and midnight on the night of the incident. However, this was later revised to between 6 p.m. and midnight, raising suspicions that the time of death had been altered to align with Yeung's shift at the ice cream shop. Additionally, no fingerprints belonging to Ping-keung were found on the television box that held the victim's body. The disappearance of the class attendance register from Yuk-ying's evening school, as well as the 2 phone calls she received prior to her disappearance, remained unexplained, adding further uncertainties to the case. Ping-keung also refuted the claim that Yuk-ying had used the phone at On-May Ice Cream. He insisted that customers were not allowed to make external calls from the shop to avoid unnecessary complications. He further argued that the loft area of the ice cream shop did not face the street, making it a quiet environment, which contradicted the testimony of Chan Binbin. Chan had previously stated that the background noise during her call with Yuk-ying was loud and chaotic, implying that the call could not have originated from such a secluded place. Ping-keung firmly denied that Yuk-ying had ever visited On-May Ice Cream on the night of the incident. He reiterated that he was merely a part-time employee and rarely ventured into the loft, except once or twice to retrieve tools for repairing vending machines. He also claimed he had never used the electric welding machine, making it implausible for him to have burned the victim's pubic hair as suggested by the prosecution. Moreover, Yeung emphasized that his duties at the ice cream shop were demanding. As the sole employee on duty, he was responsible for serving customers, handling payments, and cleaning the shop, tasks that left him little time for anything else. Typically, Ping-keung would not finish his shift until after 10 p.m. He argued that he had neither the time to search for a cardboard box nor the opportunity to dispose of a body. After hearing arguments from both the prosecution and the defense, the jury, consisting of 5 men and 2 women, delivered their verdict following 18 days of trial. The Hong Kong Supreme Court found Ping-keung guilty of murder and sentenced him to death. This case marked the first time in Hong Kong's history that a murder conviction was secured using forensic evidence alone. Despite the verdict, Ping-keung continued to proclaim his innocence. Following the conclusion of the trial, he began a hunger strike in prison as a protest, insisting that he had never done anything against his conscience and did not deserve such punishment. His wife, Chung Kam-fung, also believed in his innocence. She tirelessly sought legal assistance from various lawyers, determined to prove her husband's innocence. In March 1976, more than a year after the incident, defense lawyer Lam Tak-wah filed an appeal, citing 8 grounds for retrial. His persistent efforts eventually paid off. The Court of Appeal overturned the original verdict and ordered a retrial. 2 months later, the Hong Kong Supreme Court reopened the case concerning the body in the cardboard box found in Happy Valley. This time, a new jury, again composed of 5 men and 2 women, was selected. For the retrial, the defense enlisted the prominent lawyer, Henry Hu Hunglik, to represent Ping-keung. However, after deliberation, the jury once again concluded that Ping-keung was guilty of murder. He was sentenced to death for the second time. Undeterred, Ping-keung continued to appeal to both the Court of Appeal and the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in the United Kingdom. However, all appeals were dismissed, and the death sentence was upheld. In 1977, more than 2 years after the incident, following extensive deliberations and input from various parties, Hong Kong Governor Sir Murray MacLehose decided to grant clemency to Ping-keung, commuting his death sentence to life imprisonment. Time passed, and by 1981, 7 years after the case, Ping-keung had already served 6 years in prison. During his time behind bars, he exhibited exemplary behavior. He even taught literacy to fellow inmates, becoming known as a model prisoner. However, despite his repeated applications for parole, each request was denied. The authorities cited a lack of genuine remorse on Yeung's part. In reality, Ping-keung's refusal to express remorse was not because he lacked regret, but because he consistently refused to admit to the murder of Yuk-ying. That same year, Chung Kam-fung filed for divorce from Yeung. She took their daughter and left, with the two relying on each other from that point forward. In 1997, 16 years after the incident, Ping-keung confessed to the murder of Yuk-ying, recounting the details of the crime. By 2002, 28 years after the case, Yeung was pardoned and released from prison. Upon his release, in an interview with the press, Yeung once again insisted that he was innocent and had never killed anyone. He claimed that his confession in prison was made under duress, a desperate move to demonstrate remorse and secure early release. Regarding the Happy Valley body-in-a-box case, opinions remained divided. Some believed that Ping-keung lacked the motive to kill Yuk-ying. With no eyewitnesses and no fingerprints found on the box, the evidence against him appeared circumstantial and insufficient for a solid conviction. They argued that Yeung may have been wrongfully convicted. However, others maintained that despite the absence of direct evidence, the overwhelming chain of circumstantial evidence created a narrative too coincidental to ignore. They believed that Ping-keung was undeniably responsible for Yuk-ying's death. After nearly 3 decades in prison, Ping-keung changed his name and began a new life. As for the full truth behind the case, perhaps only Yeung himself knows the real story. The case closed with lingering mysteries, leaving the people of Hong Kong with a sense of unease and unresolved sorrow. Regardless of the truth, many believe that somewhere in the hidden corners of the city, the spirit of the young schoolgirl still wanders, waiting for answers and for true peace to be restored. That concludes today's video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Goodbye. Peace.